Hey, this is Christian and welcome back to Pacific Northwest Wreckage. Today we'll be talking about the laziest group of all, and it is one of my favorites, and that is the convenience group. The convenience group consists of three distinct options, and only two of them are generally outlined on the window sticker. That would be the automatic high beam and the rain sensing auto wipers. The third is actually the Integrand Go System, which is the proximity sensor for your keys so that you grab the handle like this and it unlocks the door. You can also use that same feature to relock the door from the outside after I think 2 seconds has elapsed from when you opened it in the first place. Three total features. The package itself is $395, or at least that's what it was on my window sticker. And I think there are two really awesome parts of that and one that is really bad. So let's cover those. Just get the part out of the way that I think is really bad. The automatic high beams. If you live in an area where it doesn't rain and where your truck doesn't get dirty and where you have generally not a ton of ambient lighting along the road, the automatic high beams will work really well for you. If you, like everyone else, don't live in that exact place, you're going to have some difficulty with it. And I'd say they operate at potentially like an 85% success rate. And that's just sort of an arbitrary number that I picked up off the top of my head, because there have been times when, especially if the truck is dirty or if it's raining, because there is a sensor mounted in the hardware by your rear view mirror that I believe reads like the wavelengths of light and makes a decision on when to dim your high beams. If that's dirty or obscured in any way by water or whatever the case is, you're not going to have 100% reliability with that feature. That being said, I do really like it because if it is a nice evening, it generally turns off the high beams about the same time that I would have, and sometimes a little bit sooner. Some of the things to keep in mind with that are also that as you approach an intersection and are coming down below a certain speed, I think it's probably 10 miles an hour or so, your high beams will automatically dim, assuming that you may be coming up against kind of cross traffic and you're not trying to blind them. That is a nice feature most of the time. It does it regardless of ambient light conditions that I've seen, and regardless of where vehicles are on the road around you. But it becomes an issue when you're off-road, because you may be on a logging road or wherever and need a bunch of light, but unfortunately, below a certain speed, it won't kick back on. So I've had this issue where I've had to actually manually go in, turn my auto high beam dimming off so that it would actually just put my high beams on when I was in the woods and wanted extra light. So something to keep in mind with those. It is just kind of a nice backup feature to have because it does dim your headlights relatively regularly or relatively reliably. It's just not perfect. Pardon the sudden change in background. One thing I forgot was your auto high beams generally do a pretty nice job with the factory headlights of not kind of false alarming when you have your headlights reflected off of a street sign. I was actually pretty impressed with that. One thing to note, however, is that if you change the color of your headlights through an HID package or aftermarket halogens, whatever you choose to do with that particular feature, which is a common upgrade on these trucks, that throws off its calibration a little bit, or its sensitivity becomes a little bit higher, and that is because it no longer recognizes that particular wavelength of light as coming specifically from your truck. That is all. We now return to our regularly scheduled video. Regarding the rain sensing auto wipers, I'm a big fan of that, actually, because I don't know if you've ever had the days, like here in Oregon, and I'm sorry to keep bringing up the weather here, but here in Oregon, we have sun, then downpour, then it sprinkles, then there's some crap on the road that gets thrown up on your windshield. Like, it's never really consistent, and that leads you to fumbling with the setting on your wipers over and over again so they're not skittering across your windshield and you're not skittering across the lanes into someone else's truck. And this really resolves that issue. The nicest thing is it's an 8-position switch. The first switch is fully off, That's nice for if you make bad decisions with your new vehicle like me and take it through a car wash. Also, you can manually turn it on to like just the regular speed, and then you can turn it on to the warp speed one or hyperspeed or whatever that's called, where it looks like your wiper blades are about to fling off your arms. In between those, so there's 5 settings basically that includes sort of different sensitivities with your rain sensing wipers. If you feel like you just turned them on and they're not clearing your windshield as fast as you would like, you can actually dial that up a notch or 2 notches or even 3 or 4, because that increases the sensitivity and increases the rate at which those are going to operate or those are going to activate. I do really like that you can override it just without going through the settings menu. It's just on the physical gauge itself, and I'll include a picture of that here. And it does a really nice job of not really overdoing it with the wipers. There's always a little bit of a delay when you're going through really heavy showers to really light sprinkles, back to really heavy showers. It doesn't really delay if it needs to give excess speed or like excess wipes, for lack of a better word. But it does sometimes go a little bit fast for a second or two, and that's really not a complaint. It's just so that you know what to expect. So I am a big fan of those. The third and final is the Integrand Go System. And my opinion is that this is a great feature. That may depend on how much you trust technology. And I think that there is a really solid argument for why you shouldn't trust it. And I have heard some horror stories about people who have had like a failure of their push button start or whatever the case was, and they weren't able to get their truck started. That's concerning, but I think there's an argument for that being a possibility in just a regular key operated ignition as well. So the Integrand Go system consists of 2 very distinct features. One of them is the proximity sensor on the outside of the truck that allows you to grab the handle, open the truck up, and relock it. The other is the push button start when you get in. What this really means for day-to-day living with this package is that you never have to take your keys out of your pocket. And like I see people fumbling with their physical keys now, I like literally don't remember how to help them anymore. Like I don't know what to do with that. So it's just nice and seamless. It's always in your pocket. I think it really eliminates the possibility of you just misplacing your keys. And I still have to pull mine out for opening my console vault up, but it's a small price to pay for a lot of the convenience of just being able to get out, lock the door from the outside, walk up to the truck and grab it. I mean, it is very sensitive. I haven't seen any malfunctions with this one, and I've been really happy with it. So, for $395, I absolutely do not think that this is a must-have, but I do really like mine. I think this is as honest as I could be about the individual features with it. And just some other things to keep in mind. I'm not 100% on this, so I'm leaving it for the end. But there are some features that I think, or one feature in particular that I think is really nice, and I'll include a video of me finding it here. And that is through your settings menu. If you go to lights, you can actually tie your headlights to turn on when your windshield wipers turn on. Now there is a certain cutoff where if it's just like a really intermittent speed that your windshield wipers are operating at, you're not going to see your headlights turn on necessarily. But anytime they're actually working, anytime it is actually raining outside, your headlights will turn on regardless of how bright or dark it is outside. I guess of how bright it is outside. And it doesn't affect the brightness of your gauges. It just independently operates the lights in conjunction with your wipers. I think that's a great feature. I used to like driving, with my headlights off because I think it looks really nice on a truck like this, but I also am now paranoid about people hitting me, especially with how just like subdued and dark this truck is, and I'm not going to take that risk anymore. So that's a feature I've had on since I started it, or since I got this truck, and I really like that. So if you guys have any other questions about this feature or any others, please leave them in the comments section. I appreciate you watching. You can also follow me on Instagram. PN Wreckage is my username, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks a lot.